Okay. We're not sure if this will be a podcast, but if it is a podcast, this will be episode 1. Name TBD.
When's this going live?
When it's going to be live, anyone's guess. But Jared and I just wrapped up a backpack mule deer hunt, and Jared thinks I need to be all in, baby, on the Montana Wild train, which I don't hate it, but I just haven't made my mind up. I was at Stone Glacier for just a little over 4 years, and now I'm back to working for myself, just working for clients, and honestly kind of taking some time off to hunt for myself. And so I hunted in Wyoming a bunch and then hunted with Jared and just trying to figure my life out a little bit. But
I just feel like a lot of people are missing Montana Wild. I'm from California originally, and I watched you and Trav back then. I don't know when you guys start. When did you guys start Montana Wild?
Well, 2011 was when we really started hunting and fishing. And so we started building a little content, but 2013 was kind of like the first real year I'd say, did anything substantial.
Okay, yeah, so I moved to Montana in 2016.
Yeah.
But I was aware of you guys.
Yeah, we were
before that.
I mean, by then we were rolling pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah, and I know there was like, you guys had a good following, and yeah, since I think you guys set a pretty good standard in hunting films and fishing. I was always more interested in the hunting stuff.
Yeah,
but
I think hunting is definitely my passion. It's Travis's passion over fishing. Travis now, he'll probably, if I do the Montana Wild thing, still be a part of it, but it'll be mostly me. But the fishing stuff is fun from the video and like photo side of things because there's so many days to do it.
For sure.
Hunting season is such a little window. And you might only, if you're lucky, you might only kill a couple things a year. Where fishing, it's just like, you don't get the shot, you don't catch the fish, we go tomorrow.
Yeah.
And we go tomorrow.
Dude.
And we can fish 365 days a year.
For sure. But that's where the bear films came in to you, because you got spring to keep hunting. And I think from my perspective, just seeing how much you've grown with what you do with it after the fact as well, like your freeze dryer that you got going back here. I think on this last hunt, I don't know how many, like, as far as your meals, your actual, like, nighttime meals, how many did you actually bring that were commercial versus what you made?
I made all of them.
Yeah. So that's, like, it's all interesting to me. And that's why I think, like, you've developed even further than you were before. And that's why I think bringing Montana Wild back, it's a really good time as far as what you've developed in your skill set of hunting and then what you do with it after the fact. In addition to the shooting, right? Like we've like all dove in super deep on shooting, being more proficient hunters and ethical and all that stuff, right? So
yeah, there's a pretty big progression leap between old Montana Wild and where I'm at now. And so like catching up and just like jumping in it'd be easy in a lot of ways. There's a lot of content things. It's just like the process of running that business and like monetizing things to make it an actual living is the harder part of that.
Yeah.
Which I wouldn't say is hard. It's a blessing to get basically do what you love for work, but
yeah, I think
here we are just sitting in the garage drinking
we're gonna
cheap beer and
talking about a good hunt, dude, because that's the thing. Like, as far as adventures I look forward to every year, it's like our backcountry, like they've been mule deer / elk hunts. We've done some bear hunting, but like I look forward to that hunt we just finished. That's the top of my year. That's what I look forward to, right? And this one came together. You could see we have a couple of cool trophies sitting behind us that, man, I just couldn't be more pumped on for like a backcountry mule deer hunt in Montana.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, that was probably the best mountain mule deer hunt that I've had. I've been chasing mountain bucks in Montana for over 10 years now. I've killed, I don't know, I'd say I've killed 3 nice bucks. Nothing that's like a giant that I'm really going for, but like 3 really good bucks. And you killed a really nice buck, and Brandon's killed a good buck with me, and Travis has killed a nice buck. So like there's been success, but it's such a challenge to find the age class that actually has antlers on its head that are bigger than 150 inches.
100%. Like Montana, we're blessed for opportunity. We get to hunt a lot of time during hunting season, but because of that, our mule deer get killed largely right before Thanksgiving when they're running hard, and they've been smart all year, and then they get dumb and they get shot. So it's our age class compared to some of the states around us is it's tougher to find them, and that's what made this hunt so special. That just the sheer number of deer that we found in general, and then be able to put our hands on these 2 deer was pretty rad.
Yeah. We'll jump into the hunt. Jared, I'm usually the hype man. Jared was the hype man on this hunt because he was just over the moon the whole time. Just
Dude, it was our
Why don't you tell us what you give us the quick rundown?
Zach's like no matter, he has to be super savage no matter what, and it's like, let's wake up at 2 a.m. and we'll drive for 3 hours and we'll hike for 4, so we're there for sunrise. And then I'm a little softer, and I'm like, well, let's sleep until 7. We'll walk in the afternoon. And then that's what we did. I talked him into it, being a little softer. We had nice coffee in the morning and drove in, and I think we got in the afternoon. Do we see some bucks? Whiteys?
Saw whitey bucks. We didn't really see much the first night, but we saw tracks. We knew there were deer around. We just hadn't seen them yet.
Yeah, so we having a nice set up camp up on the ridge, and then it was that next day. This is where I just started amping like crazy because the right off the bat, we started picking up bucks, and I'm guessing that you glass way better than me. I'm guessing you glassed up some bucks right off the bat, but then I looked right up on that ridge close to us and glassed that really good. The right side it was a 4x4, but the right side was really good.
Yeah,
tempting. Almost shot him. I was thinking about it, but there was just deer everywhere, so I was just amping like crazy from that point.
Yeah, I think of the first day of glassing, we've seen 5 or 6 4-point bucks, which was really good. I was pretty surprised you were passing a few of the deer. Jared passed the buck I killed, which has a lot of character, multiple times. But to kind of set up the hunt a little bit, we just put dates on a calendar. Jared, he has a wife and 4 kids, and he is a business owner and has a job as a brand director for a rifle and optics company, so he's very busy. And it was nice because he shuffled the schedule around a little bit to accommodate a trip I have coming up this weekend, but the weather was perfect for us. It snowed in the high country, 5 inches probably up high.
A day or two before we got there?
2 days before we got there.
Yeah.
We missed the first day it broke, and then we hiked in on the second day it broke. And then we had 2 good sunny days to kind of start the hunt. But
awesome blanket of snow everywhere, which makes spotting deer amazing because everything was white when we walked in. And that's where that first morning, deer were up and moving. It was easy. The glass we're hunting a burn where it's very difficult glassing when it is, which later in the hunt it became that way because a lot of that snow melted off. So, but man, that first morning was insane. And that's where Zach's buck that he ultimately killed, you glass that thing at 2,600 yards or something, pretty far away.
Yeah, I think he was 2,500 yards, and that ridge in between us was 1,000 yards from him. It was 1,400 yards from us. So how I kind of had found this spot is I just basically I'd have to go back and look, but it was probably 8 or 9 years ago. I thought this area looked good, and I went and scouted it. I saw probably a 160s, 170 buck in the timber that day that I hiked in to scout it, and I put a trail camera up. Never got any good bucks on trail camera. Went up there one other time to glass for deer with Travis. Saw does, but no bucks. And then I just never hunted it.
Mm.
And I'd hunted other parts of the state and other mountain ranges. And I don't know, it just kind of lived in the back of my head as a spot I probably should go back to. I feel like I've jumped around so much thinking this next spot's going to be the spot. And I've hunted areas that I've seen deer in that told me the potential was there. So why not go spend more time where you already know the potential exists?
Yeah.
And so I went in last year for opener of rifle.
On an absolutely savage, raging, like, loop that you did. I still can't believe you did that in 2 days.
Yeah, I like sent it in an evening. Basically climbed up like 3,400 vert up on a ridge, camped out, and then glassed and worked probably like 7 miles around the basin, camped, glassed, and then did like about a 10-mile loop out to the truck. But my last day in there, I spotted the buck that I ended up killing, and he was heavy, not super wide, not super big forks, but he had stickers, he had a dropper. He looked like he wanted to throw more trash, and I was like, man, I feel like if that deer has another year or two, he could be good. And I also had seen an older 4-point and then a young 4-point in there. So, like, there were 4 points with age, and then there was a 4-point with trash, and I was like, I probably should go back.
Yep. And that's what we were debating on where to go for this trip.
And I was like, we'll just go back there first and go try to turn up this deer and just see what's going on. And the conditions were great. 0 people at the trailhead.
Yep. Most
of the Montana mountain muley areas in Montana are just crazy low densities. If there were more deer, there'd be more people doing it. But, like, you can look at hundreds of square miles and not see hardly anything. So finding the pockets is really important, and I kind of already knew where the pocket was. So, yeah, we hiked in. First morning, we saw 4 or 5 good bucks. Decided to go up the trail further, kind of to where I wanted to push into, like, the head end of some country. And when we went and looked at the buck I ended up killing and relocated him, he was probably, 1,200,
maybe
1,300 yards below us across the canyon.
And easy drop in on him because we're on the main ridge and there was a little finger that dropped down. We could have easily, I would guess, 300 yards get in on him, and he was bedded with his does. And, man, what's crazy, so I think by that point we knew that this buck was the one that you saw the year before because we were able to go back and look at video.
Yep.
And he had lost his kicker. Or his dropper. Yep. He lost his dropper, but he had the kickers. He looked a little wider, more massy, a little older. And he was sitting there, and what's crazy is Zach, he offered that deer to me to let him go shoot him, and I passed on it. I just wasn't feeling it at that point. It was like, because our goal was to keep heading into that next base in there. And I'm like, man, it's too soon. It didn't feel right to me. And, yeah, we left him. It's pretty wild when we look at it now, especially after we've taped him. And he's a savage, just awesome mountain buck. But we walked away and headed into that next basin to go see what we can find.
Yeah, we watched him for probably 2 hours and could have made a play on him and got probably down to 600-700 yards.
Really easily,
which was a doable shot for us. We'll talk about shooting here a little bit more as we get into the hunt. But that's probably kind of the far end of what we want, or what I guess we would deem as our acceptable range for what we want to get on a deer.
Yep.
Both of our shots ended up being closer than that. But Jared passed him, and I wasn't sure. Passed him. Wanted to keep looking. It was like that night. So we went up the canyon. We did see another wide 4, just not good forks.
Yep.
Running does around, and it just felt like we wanted to look more. We wanted to see what else was out there.
Yeah.
But by the time we were in camp that night, we were like, maybe we should have shot. We probably should have shot that buck.
Dude, we got service up on the ridge, and you text Sam, your fiance, and she texts him something along the lines of, and why didn't you guys shoot that?
Yeah.
And that's when I started questioning my sanity.
And I texted to my brother. He's like, dude, I'd shoot that buck. I was like, well, if we don't kill him, you can come up here and look for him.
So we camped way up on the ridge, and then we climbed into another basin. We got up early the next morning and climbed some vert.
Yeah, we post-holed some vert.
Yeah, got into
like
this.
That, like, top inch is like icy crunchy, and then like 6 inches of powder, so every step's 2 steps.
Brutal.
But yeah, we got up on top and glass just a ton of country, and it was just apparent that
But I have to say about that morning, top 3 sunsets of my life. Like,
my
I could
goodness.
not believe the colors in the sky lighting up all the peaks around us. Amazing. That was the highlight of that morning.
Yeah.
Because there was no animals to speak of.
Yeah.
So we got to enjoy a sunset and no animals.
Yeah, basically we're up on the peak before sun was even really starting to like allow us to even shoot a photo on the camera or anything, like before shooting light. And so we got to just watch the world kind of wake up, which was really rad. Gorgeous country, just nothing back there really.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we came back to camp and Jared was like, I'll shoot that buck. It's like, okay, let's go try to relocate the sticker buck. So we moved camp back down to where we'd sat the day before in the middle of the day.
Yeah.
Set up camp. We got down on this little cool little flat. Jared was like, this spot is sick, bro. This is the sickest camp spot ever.
Like 360 glassing, man. Potential deer in every direction. And I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, we turned up a lot of deer. I guess we didn't. It was a little slower, actually, when I think about it.
Well, we set up camp, which actually, it was a nice spot.
Yeah.
Just a flat in the timber. And we went down, glassed. We found a 4-point buck that neither of us wanted to shoot. And then Jared ended up actually finding the sticker buck.
Yeah.
He just didn't realize it through his Swaro mini spotter.
I was running one of those ATCs are sweet when you're trying to tell if it's a bull elk or not. But as far as looking for little stickers, man, I could not. This guy he must have been 1,000 yards, and I could not tell that it was him. The lighting was a little bit tough. Even though we were backlit, I just couldn't tell. And later in the tent, it must have been 9:30 at night. I yelled from my tent to Zach. I was like, "I'm an idiot. That was the sticker buck." We had time. When I found him, we would have had time to go make a play on him. And it was an hour later. I think that you turned him up in a different spot.
I turned him up like at 4:15. Last shooting light was probably 5:30, and he was kind of on top of a cliff. We honestly could have made the move, but he'd been in the same general area for the last basically 2 days. And so we figured he'd be there in the morning. We could turn him up, have better light, hopefully find him in a spot where if we shot him, he wouldn't potentially fall off a cliff. And so we just watched him till dark.
Yep. And this was kind of a fun. This campsite was super flat, awesome, but on a ridge, and we were getting blasted by the wind. We've both been running the Durston X-Mid tents, which are trekking pole tents. We've been cutting some logs and putting them in, but we were getting blasted by the wind, and it was kind of a fun. Because Zach's wall was building a border wall in front of his. It was perfect snowman making snow, and we've got some pictures of it. But we built walls in front of our tents to block the wind from blowing in and blowing all the snow drift in there. And it was just kind of a fun campsite. I enjoyed it.
It was. The tents that we've been running, Jared turned me on to them. But it's a company called Durston Gear. And Dan Durston, he's a savage. From what I know of him, he seems like an awesome dude and a great tent designer. And
awesome. Pretty brilliant gear designer in general, man. I'm running the trekking poles too. And it's seems like everything he does is pretty brilliant, man. For strength to weight ratio, I haven't found anything that beats it.
Yeah, so the X-Mid Pro 1.
Yep, where both of ours are Dyneema.
Both of them are Dyneema outers.
Yep.
And then it has like a sewn-in mesh kind of insert with like a bottom like 3 or 4 inch like
the little tub
sheet tub.
Yep, yours is Dyneema tub. Mine's poly or something like that, I believe.
So the reason that I built the little snow blockade was it is tough if you don't pitch it perfect to get the main fly all the way to the ground. So there's a little gap. So if the wind's blowing, you can either get draft or some snow that could come up under.
Yeah.
The night before, when I'd kicked a bunch of snow out for where my tent was, I was like, oh, if I kicked the head area into like a mound, I could suck the tent perfectly tight to it and have like a blockade for the wind. So when I set up my tent, I did that, and then I built it up around the side so it was like this sweet little thing, and Jared was all jealous, and so he had to build one.
So I started building a little berm. And then Zach's like, oh, man, this snow's stacking nice. And he ended up building a wall, like a proper wall that just stopped all the wind. It was just because it was just like kind of big kids building forts, man, is what it felt like. It was cool.
But the tent, I've ran it all season. I've probably spent a dozen days in it at least. It's pretty exceptional as far as the size to weight ratio, I guess.
It's wild.
You can sit up inside of it, which is huge. My Sky Air ULT, you can't really sit up and change layers in it or do anything, which is a bummer. So you can't really live in it. You can only kind of sleep in it. The Durston gear has 2 vestibules. It's basically a long rectangle, and the sleep area is kind of diagonal in there. So you have 2 vestibules. You can fit a gun in a pack easily on one of the vestibules. You can fit your boots and gear. And I think it's sub 2 pounds.
Dude,
with the stakes and the one pole that I'm running.
Oh, with your pole. Yeah, I'm like 19 ounces, I believe, with stakes, but I run double trekking poles, and so I use my trekking poles with it. But we ended up cutting wood too, so that's it's always a backup option. Being able to use those the sticks instead of having to carry poles with you.
But they have some awesome tent options that we have zero affiliation with them. We just bought the gear because we thought it was sick.
Yeah, and it definitely turned out like it's that tent. Anybody that watches like the backpacking world, the ultralight backpacking world, it's really, those tents have taken them by storm. But it's, I would argue that we put them in some conditions that are a lot worse than most backpackers, especially hunting, and we're pretty hard on our stuff. And man, they've held up really good. I've been pumped on it. And like you said, the living out of them, having one side I have my tent or my pack in one vestibule, I could get all of my gear, go in and out of the other side, or cook in the other vestibule. I've been really enjoying it. Yeah. So, but yeah, that was just a little tangent for that. Yeah. That was a cool campsite. I really enjoyed that.
And then day 4, got up, went and looked for the sticker buck. Pretty slow morning. The sun had been out and temperatures had been up over, in the mid 30s, upper 30s. So the snow was melting pretty quick, which was making it very tough to glass because we had a lot of brown and white, splotchy, burn, rocky, like everything could hide a deer. And if they laid down, it was almost impossible to see them. I honestly glassed a lot with my spotter, which I don't usually do or hadn't done all year when I was hunting for elk. And, I didn't see a lot of deer that morning. And we were just kind of like, what should we do? Should we go over the top and look at the basin? Like, did he drop underneath us? Yeah. And is he bedded in the timber? Because the wind had picked up a little bit. So we weren't sure if they'd kind of come back towards us.
On the leeward side of that.
Hugged the mountain to get out of the wind. So I proposed a couple options. We both kind of decided to circle the basin. There was a nice game trail where the deer had been kind of living over there that would allow us not to lose too much vert and kind of circle the basin. We could look back underneath on the burn in case he came underneath us, and if he kind of had fed up and around into the next basin, we could go check it out. And so
we put ourselves right in the kind of living room that he was living in, and there that game trail that you saw took us through the cliffs, and it kept us above because there was a 4-point that morning pushing a bunch of does, and so we were able to kind of side hill through the cliffs, and we were able to check everything underneath where we were camped. And I really enjoyed that hunt. It was just kind of cool. We weren't still hunting by any means, but we were definitely in the deer. There was a couple does bedded on a cliff that we walked right into, and found that 4-point in the does. Yep. But then it put us over the opportunity to drop into that little micro basin, which on the map looked like nothing. Yeah. And we get into it, and for a mule deer, it was like the Garden of Eden, essentially, right? Like just habitat was just instantly, we both just felt like this is a good spot.
Yeah, we rolled into it, and everything looked great. It was like a mix of burn timber, like living timber, shoots, like grassy hillsides, like grass in the timber, grass in the burn. And I spotted some does kind of down below us, probably 400 feet, and just across a kind of little micro canyon. And so we basically set up and got spotters and glass on them. Jared spotted 2 bucks pretty immediately. I threw the spotter on him, and basically Jared, when he saw the buck he ended up killing, he just was like, I'll shoot that deer.
Yeah, I just loved it. I saw his right side, and I was just like, deep forks, chocolate brown, awesome mountain buck.
Yeah.
And there's something like, for me, like just the surprise when you go hunting and you don't know what's out there, and all of a sudden like it was this buck here, and you just like all of a sudden he's there. It was exciting. I was pumped, and instantly was like, I'll shoot this deer. And I'm normally pretty picky and like want to look it over and that, but honestly, it was just, the hunt was so fun coming through those cliffs, new basin that we've never looked in, and all of a sudden he's sitting there. It was exciting.
So they were feeding away from us and uphill through a burn, which if you've ever hunted burns, there's a lot of like standing burn timber and branches, even though you can see through it. It makes it really hard to get like a shooting lane.
Yep.
So we had to kind of like hustle down the ridge to almost get even / like slightly looking back up on them. Got down, got the gun set up. Took a few minutes to relocate the buck, and he ended up bedding down. I don't know if he was like slightly onto us because he was looking back up towards our ridge, but he laid down for maybe 5 minutes, which let us get everything set up, get arranged. Jared got comfortable with his gun set up and everything, and we just kind of sat on that buck, and his does worked up the hill 120 yards above him with another buck up there that was on does, and we knew he was going to get up and go after him, and when he did, we knew he was going to move probably kind of fast.
So I was on the gun, and there was a little bit of blowing snow. It was very gray light, and it was just, to be honest, I just was having a hard time seeing a lot of detail. So, one, I don't want to screw up and shoot the wrong buck or a doe, like you mess up. The cool thing, his coat was much more tan than the rest of the deer around him. So it was kind of easy to tell what he was, but man, I didn't want to screw up. So I got on the gun. I'd already pre-ranged it, and then had my Kestrel turned to the range card, and I had it set to every 10 yards. So I knew if he was between 500 to 550 what my clicks were going to be. And so what I had done, I had dialed the 2.5 mils, and I think that was for 550 yards. And then I knew at 545, 35, 20 what he was going to be. But once he got up, what happens in those burns, like Zach was saying, you're looking through all these sticks and mess and branches, and if he stopped, you're waiting for him to stop in an opening, and you're going to have maybe 2 to 5 seconds, I would guess, to break a shot before he moves again. So Zach's running the camera, phone scope, and then I also tasked him with giving me a range because once I was on the buck, I didn't want to have to re-range and then do all that. I knew what my dope was going to be based off what the yardage was, so I was just on this buck. He finally gets up. We sat on it. It wasn't that long, maybe 10, 15 minutes. But he gets up and he feeds up to the top of this rock. There's a little rock clearing where a doe was before. Zach calls out the range. It was 530. I'm pretty sure I was at 2.5, and I think I backed it off 2 clicks. I don't think I looked. I knew I was at 2.5. I dialed down 2 clicks and pretty quickly executed a really good shot. Yeah. Felt awesome. He drops right away. I didn't see precisely where I hit, but I just like pinned the trigger, excellent recoil management, watched the bullet hit, and he drops. And I stayed on him. He rolled down the hill, and that's where I heard the antlers clicking. Clink, clink, clink. It was just clicking down, and I was like, oh, man, there's a video from us in Idaho, some other friends, and shot a bull in an avalanche chute that tumbled and
snapped his whole
right at the
right side off.
A bull broke the whole thing off. So it was like, oh man, I've got kind of a habit of doing this, and I was just hoping that most of the antlers were intact. And but yeah, he rolls down and came to a stop at the weirdest place. I think it was between his G2 and G4 that he got caught up in a branch.
G2 and G4, he got hung up.
Yeah, he just got hung up on this super steep. It was wild that he stopped where he did, but yeah, watch that, and I was full blown amping, like just adrenaline kicking. You get the shakes, and I was so excited, man.
Oh yeah,
it was
Jared
so much fun. I haven't shot a mule deer for a few years. Again, I love them. I'm picky, not because I love watching them. I normally shoot an elk and an antelope, and I don't need the meat. And I was pumped to find a deer that I was stoked on with a great friend, like great adventure. It's like the adventure is what really did it for me. And man, I was pumped. So yeah, we dropped down and went over and found this guy hung up in this branch in the weirdest spot. I was super stoked. Got some awesome pictures, and then it started raining more. It kind of went from
kind of like
snow
a sleety rain, kind of misty. Everything was definitely getting wet. Got the buck taken care of, and then just dropped down. Fortunately, we had a trail in that canyon, and basically took the buck down to the bottom of the ridge we were camped on and stashed him.
Yep, put the meat all in a tree.
Put the meat in the rifle, stashed the meat in the rifle, but the head had to come. Jared couldn't separate.
I loved it, man. Like I packed that buck. We had a lot of vert to do that night.
Yeah, we had like 1,600 vert back up to the camp, which isn't like that's normal for what we do in a lot of days in the mountains. But at the end of like packing a buck down and like doing all the things, you're just like.
After a long day, it was a lot.
I don't want to.
And I was so pumped on this buck, and I packed him back up that hill, and I got exactly what I wanted. Some sick shots of the buck by the fire with the tents, and yeah, it was rad. We didn't get any video of it, but we also brought the tenderloins up.
Oh my goodness.
And we after
I was like, we got to take the tenderloins. We got to cook some tenderloins over the fire. So we brought the tenderloins up there. We got up there, built a fire. Which, fortunately, it stopped raining because we were pretty soaked. We needed to dry some stuff out before we went to sleep. But Jared came up with an amazing little tenderloin recipe.
Dude, I carry on these late season hunts for a few years now. I always bring a MSR reactor. Just it melts. We don't carry water. We melt snow for all our water.
Yep.
But in there gives you a lot of room. So I have my spork. I have a lighter. I have a MSR salt and pepper shaker, but I also throw a little bit of coconut oil in a little container, some container that I found at REI. And so after we kind of dried off and refueled ourselves a little bit, and then cut up some tenderloin in really thin slices, and then salt and pepper and that coconut oil, and man, it was pretty fantastic after a long day.
Yeah, just like cooked it a little bit on both sides and pulled it out of there, and like it was the best tenderloin, like field tenderloin I've ever had.
Yeah, it wasn't 4 hours after we had shot him that like sometimes like that meat can like when it hasn't had time to kind of sit and like I know the enzymes then will break it down, make it a little more. But man, it was pretty fantastic, and that coconut oil, salt and pepper, the expensive salt too, the nice like whatever
that coarse.
Yeah, that coarse sea salt or whatever it is, man, is like little flavor crystals.
Good.
It was so good, yeah. So that was a little highlight tonight with big old fire, and yeah, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah, but other than the very end of the trip, we melted all of our water, which stove choice or the amount of fuel you bring is huge there.
Yep.
Like Jared's stove is definitely like the king
for
Mac Daddy of like
for canister
efficiency stoves. To like melt and bring things to a boil or like and it's the MSR React.
Yeah, the MSR reactor. The medium I run the medium pot size. There's a smaller pot size, and that one's cool, takes up less space in your pack, but just think about efficiency, the bottom of it, how much surface area is in direct contact with the snow or the water. The little bit bigger one, man, it does really well on fuel efficiency and just like boiling fast. Works pretty good.
But we both pretty much went through two small fuel canisters on a 4.5 day hunt.
Yeah,
so
that is a good reference to thinking about, because we both top off our small canisters from bigger canisters.
Yep.
And I always weigh them, and I'll do like a half ounce heavier than they come from the store. And I've played with it a lot. There's the hunt last year. I was doing an ounce over. And sometimes, man, that's too much pressure. Just be careful if you're doing that. I would stay within like 0.2 to 0.3 ounces above what they say from the factory. So, but that's a good reference for us. We each had two of those and just about went through two of them in that time.
Yeah, and that includes making water out of snow as well as like our meals, and then boiling. I made hot cocoa and tea and had berry crisps and
I do 2
cinnamon
ramens a
rolls,
day.
and like we were making food with that, so it was quite a bit of like stove use. But I'd probably bring a big one and a little one just so I didn't have to worry.
I agree.
It.
I think that's next trip. I'll probably do that as well.
So our last day, we just were going to get up, pack up camp first thing, and then go to our glassing knob, look for the sticker buck. If he was back in that canyon, I was going to shoot him. If not, we just kind of hunt our way down the ridge to Jared's buck and bomb out of there and go to our next spot. And so glassed again that morning for at least a couple hours, and just we're not turning up a whole lot for deer.
Yeah, it was close.
It was just tough.
It was
tough
3.5 hours, and we saw that one spike buck on the other side. I think that's all we saw.
Yeah.
It was really slow that morning. And, I was – Zach's definitely a better glasser than me, and I'm, like, struggling not seeing deer. And I think we're both about to call it.
Yeah, I was like, hey, in like 10 minutes we're going to pack our stuff up and go down the ridge because it'll give us some different angles into like the basins adjacent to that ridge. And I was like, I'm just going to look, in my own head, I'm like, I'm going to look up basin one more time. And I'm glancing up basin. We haven't seen any deer up there, but now that the snow's melting out in the high country, like the deer could start to kind of move up. And I'm like looking through my binos. I'm just like, gosh, that looks like a buckhead. And I literally tell Jared, I was like, dude, I think I don't know. If this is a buck, like this is the best bino like spot ever. And I like grab my spotter, like put it up. I'm like, yep, that's a buck. I'm like, oh, I think that's a sticker buck, dude.
I was instantly on. I wasn't going to let him decide whether he wanted to shoot at that point. At that point, I was like, we're going to go shoot the sticker buck. I was so pumped. We had already packed up camp, and I'm ready to start going.
So I was like, well, obviously we're going to go try to get a closer look and check this thing out. Because we hadn't looked at him closer than probably 1,200 yards yet. And he looked really nice. He looked heavy. He had stickers and character, but he didn't seem giant. He was just like one of those deer that like is really nice, but like do you pass him and try to like turn him up again next year? Do you shoot him? Is he going to be smaller than you think, bigger than you think? Like just tough to judge on the hoof, really. And the way the wind was blowing, we either could have side hilled it at him and got close, or it felt like going uphill vert like 600-700 feet and then hitting the trail, and like making the big loop felt like the smart play as far as the wind, even though it was a little more work for us. And so I've just learned over the years, like, do you want to kill him, or do you want to like hope that it's right and try to do it and kind of be lazy and like kind of go over there? And like, so we did it the right way. We got the vert, looped around the basin, and came down this ridge on top of him. Fortunately, they'd stayed generally on the same little cliff ledge where I'd first glassed him, and was able to turn the buck up. I think the first time he was at like 660. We slid down the ridge to like 480 or something in there, and I felt like I could get a little closer. We shoot probably 3,000 plus rounds a year.
Yeah.
I'm shooting a 28 nozzler with 195s. Like, it's no problem to make that shot. It's just we're hunting, and I want to make I want it to be a slam dunk. So the closest we can get without bumping him and like finding a good shooting position, like we're going to take advantage of that, and we're going to close that gap. So we were able to get to 430. Great little ledge where we could have our stuff out of sight, kind of creep up, set the spotters up. I could get prone, 430. Had a little bit of wind, but at that range with that gun and bullet combo, it was like, I think I held a 10th right.
Yeah, he was bedded straight away from us, and we just took our time. We set up 2 spotters, set up the camera, and just waited him out. And it was great. We were all set up, and I was, again, not helpful in the situation, I would say, because I think you should try and help keep the shooter calm. But but I was so excited about
Yeah.
seeing this buck like up close that that thing stands up. He took a couple steps, and yeah, I think we already talked about the wind.
We
And-
talked about the wind. When I first put eyes on him and looked at him close, I was like, not sure. I was like, did he break his sticker off? Because it was really hard to see at the right angles, and he moved his head, and you could just see both stickers were there, and I was like, he's the one.
Yeah.
We're shooting him. But, yeah, I'd taken some wind readings. We talked about the wind. Fortunately, had everything set up. I thought he was probably going to stay bedded there for a little bit because he'd actually rebedded while we went down the ridge to close the gap. He was originally bedded straight towards us, and then when we got down closer, he had bedded. He just got up and 180'd. And so, yeah, he just kind of had started moving his head around and was like feeding, and I was like, I think he's going to get up. And so I turned on my Sony like second angle, got on the gun, and then he like laid his head down like he was going to sleep, but I stayed on the gun, and then he just got up. Jared was back there running 2 spotters, and he took a couple steps. It was like quartered away hard. I was like, what do you think? And then I was just like, no. Like Jared didn't really say anything. And then he stepped a couple more steps perfectly broadside. Yeah. Like I picked a spot and just like shot, perfect recoil management. Could see the shock wave in the side of his like shoulder. Like didn't see exactly where the bullet hit, but knew it hit right in like my like spot behind the shoulder. He immediately like took a couple steps, looked super hurt, stumbled and fell. Like you could see the off shoulder, like blood coming out right on the point of the shoulder, like perfect. And he kicked a couple times, and he was done in like 15, 20 seconds tops.
Yeah, it was exciting because I trust.
Jared on the. He's like, perfect shot.
Dude,
So, I hope he doesn't kick. Perfect shot. I'm just laying on the gun, just like
calm as can be.
Yeah, just like I got another one ready, but I don't think he's gonna need it. Like,
dude, what was cool though is like for as much as we practice, your gun's dialed, and like you as a shooter, I have extreme confidence in you, but. Instead of risking we can always I have confidence that you could have made the quarter away shot, but instead it was cool because we were patient, and then he gave us the perfect broadside, which we have all the wind forgiveness, right? You hit. I would bet if you went up there and put an X, it probably hit right where you would have put an X, right?
Yeah.
But just being patient, doing the right thing, climbing all the vert to go around so we don't mess them up on the wind. It felt really good. Just. Man, all the work and making good decisions, not the lazy decisions, and then it resulted in like a perfect shot and him dying right where we wanted him to. Again, like with me having some stuff fall, I was I was pretty nervous. You can hear on the video that I was pretty nervous that he might kick himself off the cliff. Like there's a few animals in our history together that have gone off some stuff. So I was really pumped that the Nas did a really good job because he didn't have enough life in him after that bullet went through him to get himself to that ridge. It seems like they want to run a lot of the time, and he didn't have it in him. And it hit him. He turned and he kind of died right up against the tree that he was bedded under.
Yeah. So both the shots well executed. Jared's was about 2 or 3 inches below the backstrap.
Yep, touch high.
Kind of down at a slight downhill angle, quartering away perfectly into the offside shoulder. I mean, if we had to get hypercritical, we could say that was like maybe like 3 inches higher than it'd be if you went and pointed it up there, but dropped him immediately, killed that buck. Great bullet performance. Yours didn't pass through. It made it into the
offside shoulder
and did a lot of damage. So.
Yep. That was the 162 ELDM, the Hornady, out of a 18-inch 7 PRC. The thing did awesome.
Yep. And then I'm shooting a 195 Burger EOL at like 2990. No, it's over 3,000.
Yeah, you're over 3,000.
It's like 3010.
Yeah.
At 430, pass through like the wound channel, the damage, how quickly it killed that deer. I'd say like the performance of the bull was like exactly
excellent,
what I would expect and want. And like just watching the video back, I was like, Jared, like look at the recoil. Like, you can't even tell I'm shooting a 28 nozzler. Like it's just like
Looked like you're shooting
right
a Creedmoor,
like
yeah.
I was shooting a Creedmoor. So it's like those bigger guns, you can shoot them if you shoot them right and have the right fundamentals, which we spend a lot of time shooting. So our hunts honestly feel like window shopping a lot of the time, you know, because like we're just trying to find that target animal, and then we've hunted enough that generally like the strategy to get within an acceptable range isn't crazy tough with a gun.
And we're bow hunters too.
Yeah, we're both bow hunters, so like getting to 400 yards is like initial baseline engagement of a bow stock.
Yeah.
You know, like planning one. So it's like that whole back end of the process for us is so streamlined that it doesn't. Yours was exciting. Mine was like exciting, but not. Like both the animals I've killed this year, like just felt I was very excited to shoot them, but there wasn't a lot of like excited energy because it was rushed and you got them and you weren't sure. It was just like very like methodical. Like these are the things you do. This is the process, and he's going to die. And he's going to die a quick death, and that's going to be a good shot. And it's like, that's like the baseline expectation. So it's not exciting because it's like, I've done it, I've seen it, I know it.
For sure.
And it's cool to like, just be like, got him. Like, yes,
100%.
like we did it. You know, because I think there will be opportunities where it's like that crazy excitement that you had when you first started hunting and you got the thing. Oh my gosh, you know, where it's like there's a giant and it happens fast. But like these encounters have been a little more like had a little bit of time to like work the process through and not have an animal like about to flee or like onto you or like pops up and you have like one window. So
yeah, it was really cool. So, like, a couple things. Like, I haven't shot very many animals with the rifle in the past few years. Been fortunate to kill antelope and elk with my bow, and then I typically use mule deer as an excuse to hunt all the way through the season, and I'm picky so that I can keep hunting all the way through. We have long seasons, so I was extremely excited for that. But then just, again, being in Montana and finding two good bucks that we're both pumped on is kind of rare as far as like what we both are hoping to kill on a hunt or find and kill on a mountain mule deer hunt. And that's what it was just so exciting that we found two in the same general vicinity. It was extremely exciting.
We were fortunate that I had found a good pocket and that it was still good, hadn't been shot out. We hunt mule deer way too long in Montana in both of our opinions. So it was cool. I mean, we definitely had I'd say an impact on the population there, so probably we'll give it a couple of years. But there are some good up-and-comer deer, so I'm sure we'll be back to that area. Excuse me. But yeah, both of the bucks were better than we thought they'd be when we got up to them. There wasn't ground shrinkage.
Nope.
We were pumped opposite. On both of them.
Yeah. It was exciting. I gotta say, like Zach's buck here, we were calling him the sticker buck, and what I think's so cool. First, he had history with it. He saw it the year before, and we had video to compare.
Yeah.
But he was the most deceptive buck I've ever seen, as far as like watching through binos, spotters, video, and then walking up and putting my hands on him because he had so much mass and his body was so big it hid just how big his antlers were. I think his mass measurements were over 5 inches down low, and it made everything look shorter from a distance, and it was so cool walking up on that buck after looking at him. It was 3 days, I think, that we watched him.
Yeah.
And then getting to put our hands on him was extremely exciting because he was such a cool, massy character deer.
Yeah, we had a little scoring party today. My roommate and our good friend Logan Summers killed a really nice whitetail. So we just kind of did some guesstimation on all 3 bucks and put the tape on them today. And I don't know if you want to share. I'm happy to share what they all ended up being. But we were pretty close on them. You know, it's tough. It's not about the score. It's just the more you hunt, the more you want to like make good decisions in the field and shoot the animal that you want to shoot. And so I think it's fun for us to like guess and try to estimate and then put a tape on them and see how close our like gut check, like what is this deer? What's his like age and size and like being selective.
And it's a cool reference point just to know, like when you're looking through binos and like what you can expect when you actually shoot them. And yeah, what was first? We'll start with Logan's with the Whitey. That was I think that was ended up 148,
48
and a half or something. And then
which
my
was a sick whitetail.
Awesome,
Montana.
yeah.
A little smaller than what Logan thought he was.
Yep.
But Logan's killed some giants. When you've killed like 170s and low 180s, like it makes it feel small, but it's a great buck.
Yeah,
and then
giant whitetail.
Jared's buck is exceptional.
Mine
slightly, I think, smaller than we thought. Like the average, like,
for sure,
was.
He broke off when we heard him clicking down those rocks. He broke off 2 kickers off his right side. He was probably fighting or just rubbing really hard when he was scraping his velvet because he broke his main beam on the left side.
Yeah.
But I think he ended up 157-ish.
157 and change.
Yep.
But he's basically like a 165 frame deer, and then whatever his extras would have been.
Yep.
Which is a super awesome.
Dude, that's like I
buck.
Pumped on that, dude. Like
that's like honestly like the mature, like general maturity for like a mountain buck, like would be in that 160s.
Yep.
And anything above that's getting really good.
Pretty exceptional beyond that.
For Montana, which just is the way it is.
100%. And then your buck deceived all of us, I'm pretty sure.
You guys were closer. I was like, he's 156.
Dude.
Like, he's not that big.
Dude, what did he end up going?
He went 176, which is like a great buck for Montana.
Just a stomper.
It didn't matter what the score was. Like the character sold me, but it was cool to just see how all the little extras. I think he had 13 inches of extras.
Yeah.
And the mass, just head length, and it was just cool to like put a tape on him and just think about like, okay, his forks weren't deep, and he had a big body, and he was massy, and it made him seem smaller than he was. So it's like a good reference point. Because I was down in Wyoming, and I killed a bull with a lot of mass, and I thought he was bigger than he was because his mass hid length, but he actually ended up being smaller. So it's always like you're trying to make a good judgment call in the field. So the more you can do this and actually put a tape on him, put a score on him, and like learn, you just get better at making a good judgment call in the field, because sometimes it needs to be quick. You
For sure.
Have 3 or 4 days.
I know. Yeah, it was cool. Just that buck, the mass on him, and your history with him is super cool. I love it. I'm extremely pumped on how that hunt worked out, that you got to shoot him, and I appreciate that you gave me the opportunity to. Yeah. It didn't feel right in the time, and I'm like, couldn't be happier the way that it worked out. Like,
I was like stressed out not being able to find him for Jared. I was like,
yeah, like in reality, Zach's had a good year. He's killed a couple bulls already, and I had going into the hunt, I had a suspicion that we'd have a hard time finding you a buck that you'd be willing to shoot. Yeah. And after I shot mine, you said you'd shoot the sticker buck. I was all in. I was so pumped that you.
It's like I'm gonna glass so hard in the morning to find the sticker buck.
I did not find him. He found him.
But it was cool that I found him though.
Yeah, it
felt right.
It was awesome. So, yeah, took some pics, cut them up, and then we had a bunch of work to do. We had 2 bucks down back there, and where Zach's buck died, where we shot him, he was up on this cliff at the head of a basin off of the main drainage that we were hunting. It was still snowy up in there, like kind of that really slippery snow was melting off. So coming off of that, we had a lot of side hilling to do, and yeah, I think it was 2 miles to my buck, and we packed him out 2 miles through that, and it was just like, it was a little bit I don't know how to say it, but it was challenging to stay on my feet for one thing. I was behind Zach most of the way because I was taking pictures of that buck on his back, and he didn't realize I had fallen several times.
Yeah, he's a quiet faller.
Yeah, so by the time we got down to my buck, we were debating back and forth on whether or not that we were going to try and do it all out. Each of us carry our own buck in camp and all that. And I got out, and my hips and knees and ankles were kind of sore and tired out from that side hilling out of there, and we decided to do it in 2 trips. So we left my buck and rifle. I still have my rifle cached up there, and we bombed out that night. We made pretty good time.
Yeah.
And we got back to the truck and made a bunch of food. My God, we just kept eating and eating.
Made a bunch of food, had a good time, just hung out, and then next morning power hiked up there, grabbed them, shot some photos, a little content coming out, and everything was smooth sailing.
Yeah.
A little bit of wind that got a little bitey at times, but it was pretty good. The feet were definitely sore. The first time I've had to put a little tape, just precautionary, on the feet in probably 3 or 4 years. The snow and just boots don't stay waterproof forever, even buying really high quality stuff. You wear them in that kind of country long enough, it's just tough when it's really wet, saturated, high moisture content snow and wet brush and like wet pant legs. And
yeah, it was tough on both our boots. I think both of our boots are the pair I was wearing it was the second season, and they were showing some wear. Yours were second season as well. Yeah, they were both showing, and we both had wet feet. Man, when we got to your truck, your feet looked like they'd been soaked in a bathtub for a few hours. It's just hard, man. The country that we're hunting up there, it's rough on gear. Yeah. And we felt good just to let our feet just dry out overnight, right? Yeah, on the hike back in, because we made record time. We set a 2:00 time limit, and we beat it by 10 or 15 minutes, I think, to do that trip in and out. It was a good stomp back in and grabbing my buck and rifle and coming back out. So it was pretty exciting.
So it was a fun hunt. I guess the only other thing I wanted to talk about a little bit maybe was just Jared just picked up a camera and is shooting a lot. Like, what were some takeaways of just shooting photos and being new to the game? And what do you like about it? What are the challenges?
It's fun. So, I just started.
What camera do you have?
Okay, so I'm hanging out with Zach, who's a master at his craft for sure. And then Logan as well. It's like not at the Zach's level, but he's pretty good with the camera. And so I kind of picked their brains, and I went and bought I didn't want to ball out with the kind of top of the line. I normally do that with things in my life, but this one I was like, I'm going to ease into it, and I got a Sony A6700, which is an awesome camera, but it is a crop frame, so lenses are cheaper, the camera itself is cheaper, and I just thought earlier, me and Logan went out opening weekend. That's the first one I had it, and I was like, I want to see if I'm going to actually be diligent and use the thing, because that's like, a lot of guys will buy the stuff, and maybe they carry it around too, but they won't pull it out and use it. But I'm like, I want to see if I can be diligent, and I want to see if I can enjoy it. And that first trip with Logan, I was really diligent. I got the camera out. Every time I saw something, I heard somebody say, it's like, if you see something cool, try and take a picture of it. And so every time I saw a cool view or a sunrise or a mountainside, I'd take a picture of it. And then, so that was a good little learning experience. But then with Zach, I picked his brain. We talked a lot about cameras on this trip. And I hadn't even talked about video yet until this trip. And so Zach helped me on that. And it was really fun, man. I took like 1,700 images, I think, total. And not all of them are great. And I'm hoping a handful of them end up being pretty good ones. But it was a really fun learning experience. And the thing on a trip like that is everything is epic. Yeah. Every angle, everything looks cool. And so it makes it really now I fully have the bug to keep shooting pictures and video too, if I could help with shooting video for stuff, because it's really cool when you do go through the editing. It takes some time, but then all of a sudden you find an image that's worth putting on your wall. Like, I'm pretty excited about it.
Yeah, I think for me there's definitely some takeaways, like, for people who are watching. One is, like, it's accessible to take really great photos. Like, your camera setup probably wasn't too crazy expensive. It's pretty lightweight, and it's really just about, like, taking it and using it. I think you learned that the cheap shoulder strap carrier.
Yep, I cheaped out, man. This goes against everything I stand for. Zach even called me out on it. Like, I normally just buy good stuff. Like, if you want to talk about rifles, optics, tripods, whatever, I buy the best. And then, like, the stupid camera strap carrier, I think the good one is Peak Designs.
Yeah, which I had some trouble with mine, but yours was rougher.
I bought the cheap Amazon one. I can't remember the name of it, Ulanzi or something. I have a crazy callus going on my finger now because every time I went to click it, it wouldn't open and wouldn't release because in the cold weather, like, I'm sure it works great in 75-degree sunny weather, but out on this gnarly, like, mountain hunt, cold weather, lots of snow, I'm guessing it was rusting or something. But man, every time I went to take a picture, and that's where like I had to be extremely diligent. If I want to use my camera, I know I'm gonna like my finger's gonna hurt to get it loose. So don't cheap out on those things.
Don't cheap out, but also like have it. Like having it not in your pack and having it there meant you used it a lot.
Yep.
And like he left it out even when it was raining. Like that's the thing I was telling Jared was like Jared could be a photographer that could provide a lot of value to a lot of brands very quickly because he's willing to hike up on the mountain into cool places, cool locations where like the physical effort, like what we just did would crush 99.9% of American citizens.
Mm-hmm.
So that immediately sets you apart in what the image opportunities are in front of you. You literally need to be a warm body that has a basic knowledge of the camera settings and like have it there so you can pull it off and use it. And then your eye will develop over time. Like shoot a bunch. Like Jared shot a bunch. Like there's a bunch in there that's like, nah. But there's some stuff in there that's like it sticks out as good. And the more you can like look at it and analyze what made it look good, the quicker you can get to like just seeing the shots. I think Jared probably noticed that like I would just out of the blue be like, okay, like here's the shot. I just saw it. Like I'm going to shoot it. And then camera's away for a while. Like
that's what Zach would just see stuff and he'd be able to anticipate too when he's like, oh, when I could tell because he'd have the camera already because you're playing with settings every time. And I'm still learning the settings. But there was a lot of, if I was shooting Zach, I'm telling him to stop a lot. And because I'm still playing like, oh, no, that's not quite right, fiddling. Well, Zach would see it ahead of time, have the settings dialed, and just like I wasn't even aware that he was shooting. So I think that's a lot of him showing his expertise with it, and it was inspiring for me for sure just to want to.
Dude, even the iPhones, like the general quality on the iPhone is crazy. Probably more so on video than photos, but the night photos on the iPhone are wild. So it's like I took my Sony A7S III with a 35 millimeter Sigma, 2 batteries, 1 card, 1 mic, some lens cleaning stuff. You took a A6700 with 2 little lenses.
Yeah, I had this Sigma 18-50 and the 10-18, like 2 pretty sick. They're both 2.8s. And but for the money, it's pretty inexpensive, man. Like it costs what a body would be. Like all in, I'm less than a body of a nice full frame.
And then phone scopes.
Yep.
And like we documented the hunt, and I'm sure like I haven't cut it or looked through it, but we'll have a sweet film with minimal camera gear and not a ton of effort on the production side of things.
Yeah.
Which isn't how I would approach it necessarily if I knew I wanted to film the hunt and was there dedicated for that. But, like, the ability to capture things is, like, it's accessible. It's just, do you want to do the work?
Yeah, being diligent about pulling the camera out when it was when it was
raining, when it was like we had to cut the buck up, when we're packing meat, like finding a time to use the camera in those moments. Like when we got back and we're building a fire and we're trying to dry gear out, like, oh, this is a sick shot. I need to go grab the camera instead of like making food and like drying my clayers out. You know, it's like you have to sacrifice to do those things. But I'm excited for other people like yourself to be like, even just for the personal memories and like what you'll have available for you to look back through, and even just like sharing stuff with your kids and your family.
That's what I love,
friends.
man.
Like, so cool.
I'm super excited about it. Just like I think I told you my goal for the camera was like every year I'd like to get 1 or 2 images worthy of printing and putting on my wall.
Nice.
And I think this hunt alone, man, I could think of several that are like worth it, I think, already. And so it's and then being able to help with filming the video side's a whole nother thing to learn, but hopefully I can get to the point that I can at least aid in getting some of the stuff together, put films together and that. So it was fun.
Well, I'm sure that I'll have you back on if I do this podcast.
And, it's happening, bud, dude. You're going to get some pressure, dude.
I know. So Jared's he's the most influential. Him and Phil Vallejo taught me the majority of like the high level shooting stuff that helped me go from a passionate, just personal, long range wannabe shooter that was generally like, I'd say pretty above average, not great, to like becoming a shooter that if I focused and dedicated myself, could be in that top tier nationally. It's so expensive, but like Jared's a great resource for shooting stuff, great hunter, great father, awesome. He checks a lot of the boxes, so I'm sure he'll be back, and we had an awesome hunt.
Yeah, it was great, dude.
Yeah.
I'm excited to do another one. We've got some ideas coming down the pipeline.
We've got a lot of content ideas, so it's exciting to think about. Hopefully this is just the beginning of some cool stuff. So
yeah. Hit him up on all the IGs and YouTubes and make him keep doing this stuff because he's good at it.
Yeah.
I like to watch it myself.
Well, sweet, man.
Right
Thanks.
on, bud.
Yeah.